Hey Kai, I hear you're having problems with your standard bred mare. And it doesn't matter whether it's a standard bred, quarter horse, thoroughbred, a horse is a horse. They have different traits that are indicative of being a horse. So you pretty much laid out when you're asked, she says she doesn't listen to you, you're riding her in a bitless bridle, and you've gone out of your way to get her a saddle that fits, which is a good deal. You don't want to have your horse uncomfortable. But the bitless bridle is more than anything, is a bluff. So when you're asking your horse to say maybe bend or maybe stop, it's got to be a willing response. Your horse has to willingly want to, because if your horse doesn't want to stop or doesn't want to turn, it's going to push back on it. So there's no bite to your bark. You're asking your horse to bend or stop. The horse will get dull real quick, and they'll figure it out real quick. That's why with a hackamore you never have a steady pull on it, because the horse learns to lean on it, and pretty soon you have no control because the horse understands he can push through it. So getting back to one of your comments was, when you're troubled by this, that your horse doesn't like the bit. I would suggest that you'd probably go back to a snaffle bit, and maybe your horse, you said you're a new rider, so things are new to you. Your horse might be arguing more with your hands than they are the metal object in the mouth, being the bit. So that is so important. Think about it yourself. If you were to put a metal object in your mouth and pull on it, I mean, they're quite sensitive to that. And the main thing you have to understand is that when they yield to you the tiniest bit, you need to yield back to them and give them a release. Otherwise, the horses get real dull on them to where they get leaning on the bit. They get pushed out with their nose, they get arguing with it, and then the human says, well, they don't like the bit. It's not the bit they're arguing with, it's your hands. It's maybe your lack of release. So now, if I had that problem with a horse that was sent to me, the first thing I would do, like you said, the horse ignores your when you're asking it to do different transitions, to be stop or turn and everything. I would go back to groundwork on that horse to where it would understand when I ask it to move forward, it moves forward. When I ask it to yield its hindquarters away from me, it yields its hindquarters away. I'd have a real firm understanding with my horse on the ground that when I'm going to ask for something, I'm going to get it. And it's not going to be a quick fix, it takes some time. So once I had that horse understanding of me when on the ground, then I would think about riding it. Now, a horse being a herd animal and the way they think, if you have a herd environment, the horse in that herd that can move the other horses around gets to be the dominant, the leader in the herd of two. And you need to set it up in your horse's eyes that you are its leader. By the sound of it, you said it just ignores you. It'll do things maybe quite relaxed and as you would like it at times, but then when you go to asking it to do something else, then it argues with you and has a juvenile fit. Well, really what's happening there is the horse is quite happy to go along with your idea as long as that's what it wants to do. So that might be like taking your horse and riding down a trail with another group of horses. Well, that horse is more than happy to travel with those other horses. But if you were to stop that horse and turn it away from the herd and ride off, well, then it's your idea, not necessarily the horse's idea, and then the problem would arise. So as long as the horse is doing what it would like to do, it's quite compliant. But when you're asking it to do something that you would like it to do that maybe it doesn't want to, that's when the argument comes up. So getting back to the groundwork, I would establish it on the ground that when I'm asking for something, it is not up for debate. So I use a method called suggest, ask, tell. So where I'm suggesting the horse might move forward, say. I would offer the direction, say if I'm going to ask it to go to the left with my left hand. So that'll be my directing hand. My driving hand would be my right hand. So I'd offer the left, which is the direction I'd like him to go, and then I bring up my right hand with the end of my lead rope in my right hand. Now that's suggesting that my horse moves out. Down the road, it'll understand when I set it up in that manner that it needs to move out, and it will move out. Your horse probably won't move out when you ask it to do it. So what you do is you build the pressure. If lifting your hand with the lead rope in it, so your right hand, your driving hand, doesn't get the response you want, the forward movement to the left, what you're going to do is you're going to maybe rotate the end of that rope cut time or two. So you brought up more life. So when you lifted it, that suggests if you don't get your desired response, you're going to turn that rope over a few times. That is asking, so it suggests asking. If your horse still doesn't move out, you're going to pop that horse in the hindquarters with the end of that rope and get it to move out. Now when it moves out, you're going to have to allow it to move out a little bit before you stop it. So the horse understands that when you're going to ask for something, say forward movement, that you're going to get it. You're not going to say 2 steps and you get to stop. So you'd allow it to move out. Then tip the horse's nose towards you and roll his hindquarters away for your stop. That's setting up a 1-rein stop that you'll get when they're on their back. So I hope you can visualize this. We have videos that explain it a lot better. So I'm going to get my horses going in both directions in a circle around me to where I offered a direction, maybe it'd be the right or the left, and my hand comes up that I suggest they move out. They're going to move out. My position is going to be behind the drive line. The drive line on your horse is generally right around where your cinch would be. If you're behind that, you should get forward motion. If you're even with it or in front of it, you could get your stop and your turn. So I'd be behind the drive line, I'd bring up some energy and I'd send that horse forward. If I don't get the desired change that I want with the energy that I'm asking, I'm going to turn up the energy until I get to the change that I'm looking for. Now, in saying that, if I asked the horse to move off to the left, and I had to go right through suggest, right to ask, right to tell, to get that horse to move out, the next time I would ask that horse, I wouldn't go directly to the telling. I would go way back to the suggest. So my hand would come up first. So I'm always letting that horse, giving that horse the best deal possible. I'm asking that horse to move out and I suggest they go. If you hang in there with it, the horse will start taking you up on it. Working with horses is so similar to being a parent to children. You can't beg them and you can't be their best friend all the time. Somebody has to be the leader. So in your herd of 2, with you and your horse, you have to set yourself up in your horse's mind as the leader. That's no different in a family. If you have a family where the kids, the toddlers, run everything, it would be chaos. It doesn't work. So you have to have your horse understand that you're the leader, and when you ask for something, that you're going to get it. And then as for your bridleless or your bitless bridle, I would go back to a snaffle, and I would get that horse bending laterally both ways very good, because you'll never help a troubled horse by pulling on 2 reins. What you need to do is use 1 rein at a time. The neck reining method of moving horses down, that's a willful yielding they're giving to you. And if they don't want a neck rein, it's pretty easy for them not to. But if you can get them to understand that when you take the slack out of your rein, you set it up on the ground to when you pick up on your lead rope and disengage their hindquarters. If you can do the same thing from their back, you can get control of them from the back. So when your horse has his little hissy fit or whatever, you can shut him down by disengaging his hindquarters. When you're asking him to move out, you can bring that life up in your body, suggest, ask, tell with your legs, and then maybe pop him with the end of your rein to get him to move out. If you hang in there and you're consistent, your horse should understand that when you ask for something and you're going to get it. I'd like you to try these methods, see how they work out. I'm sure if you hang in there, they will work out. And maybe get back to me and let me know how it turns out.